Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
I'm just going to grab another. Steve, you sure that wants water?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Ready? Water? Beautiful. Water?
No, I'm done.
I'm just going to grab a cup because it's actually warmer than I thought it would be. To myself. Give me a second. So thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me the mercy of your association and the great mercy of discussing Bhagavad Gita. I think I've seen you guys, but I haven't spoken to you before. So
No, I've seen you as well.
so it's also one of the things. Why don't they? I always say, why don't we always talk to each other? So I've been teaching Bhagavad Gita on an intense level probably for about a year in the UK, but in Discourse, Scotland, and I was every week. I was kindly given the lovely devotee Ram Lakshman Prabhu, who's a disciple of Bhakti Swami. He saw me in an argument once about Bhagavad Gita, and he said, would you like to come and teach Bhagavad Gita? So that was a great experience. And then with Kesha Swami, been helping many on the fundraising side, with a concept called Think Gita, which I think there's about 300 or 400 people that turn up every week now to the courses, which is like a pre-Gita course. And in case Swami normally does a sort of a drop-in visit at the end of the course. Subject to his arrangements, we'll probably have him give a class either remotely or physically. He's in Australia in February. I'll try and get him to come along because we were very good friends, so probably oblige me to, with great mercy, to come and kind of also get that inside as well. And the idea, of course, is to give people a chance to go into the Bhagavad Gita in a kind of structured way, and who might be struggling with some of the concepts. My background for a lot of my life, I was a law lecturer at London School of Economics. So we come from this background of analysing texts and breaking down what's the kind of, when law students or lawyers struggle with legislation, we say what was discussed in Parliament, why was it discussed, and now use that to break down the text. So it's what we call the kind of the pre-normative position, or the thinking behind the text. So that's what we're going to try and unravel and pull out some of the, often some of the most brilliant hidden bits in the Bhagavad Gita are sometimes need a bit of digging to pull out, and we'll try and do that. So I'll give a broad overview because some of you, I think you're sort of new to the text and want an introduction, and then I'll take it a little bit further. So I don't want to bore. Some people might be hugely familiar with the text, so it's just getting that balance. You're not.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay, right. So that'll make it a little easier for me. So so I can start on that sort of. In many ways, we're all sort of novices in Bhagavad Gita. We're not Arjuna who can digest it in whatever it is, an hour and a half on the battlefield. We'll go very slowly. I think one of the rules of Srila Prabhupada's edition of Bhagavad Gita is Srila Prabhupada is a bona fide representation of Krishna, and therefore the commentary is as important as the text. They have equal weight, and you must see them that way when you read them. And so that's often the biggest first reason why people struggle with it, because they read the text and they don't really read the commentary. And that's kind of like, if Prabhupada is Krishna, if you imagine that, that's sort of listening to Krishna with one ear and then having your face the other way by not listening to the commentary. And we want to be humble and not approach it like that. We want to have both our ears at the Gita and picking up on what the commentary is saying. So the Bhagavad Gita, I'm sorry, before I start, we'll repeat these structural concepts quite every week, because I think it helps everyone get that confidence with the text, how knowing what the structure of the whole book is, of the whole text is. So the Bhagavad Gita is effectively what we call a sandwich. That's the common way of looking at it. So it's a sandwich with one bit of cheese and 2 pieces of bread. And the top piece, which is the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, is known as Karma Yoga, right? Discussion of action, which is dovetailed to the Lord. Okay? So that's the first 6 chapters. And then we have the middle bit of the sandwich, which is the most important bit of the sandwich, and that is the Bhakti Yoga, 6 chapters. That's chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, chapter 11, chapter 12. And then we have the final 6 chapters, which is the bottom bit of the sandwich, and that's Jnana Yoga. Yeah? So, what you'll get is like 12, 15 golden rules for approaching the Bhagavad Gita, and commentaries and text, and that will then give you the confidence to then go back and really read it and get to grips with the kind of, and maybe get a rustle out of reading it like you would with singing Kirtan. So, what we have to understand is that Arjuna is a great devotee of the Lord, and that's why the Bhagavad Gita has been revealed to him, because he is approaching the Bhagavad Gita with a huge amount of humility. The background of the Bhagavad Gita is, of course, the Kauravas, the main protagonists being Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, have taken the Pandavas' rightful land and are refusing to give it back. So what we'll do is we'll start very, very simply. We're going to look at the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, and we're going to look at, I know Pradeep's done this a few times with me, but we're going to look at sort of 3 ways of looking at this verse. Okay? So I'm going to pass you a copy of the text.
Didn't bring my reading glasses.
Should I make it bigger on the phone? Or? I can read it out to you. I'll read it out to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll bring it next time.
Yeah, that's right. So you got a copy. So I can read it out to you. I won't do the Sanskrit. I'll just read out to you. If everyone reads it, then I can read it out. And let me know when you're ready.
What are we reading? It's text 1.
Text 1, verse 1. Yeah. Text 1, verse 1. It's on page 33.
Who's reading?
No, I'm just waiting for you to finish. You've read it?
Oh, no, not yet.
Yeah. Let me know when you've read it.
No, can you just repeat it out loud? So
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to read it. You've read it?
You want me to read?
No. Have you read it?
No, not yet.
Okay, just let me know when you've read it and I'll read it out loud.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for you to read it. Okay, so I'll read it out loud and then we'll do the starting prayers and then I'll go into it. Yeah? So Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what do they do? Yeah? So Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what do they do? So that's what we'll discuss at the moment. So I'll just do the starting prayers before we commence. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salaka Kapsu Militam Yena Asmai Sri Guru Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swaya Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swa Pandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavascha Sri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Savjivam Sadvitam Sadhudutam Varijnaya Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vitamscha He Krishna Kano Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisa Gopikanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancha Gorangi Radha Vrinda Sri Visapanusutta Devi Pranamai Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatu Prascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patinanaya Bhavadayo Vaishnavayo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Rasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the text, Dhritarashtra, who's the evil king, with his son who stolen the land of the Pandavas, says, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra designed to fight, what do they do? So the normal way to do this is people just read this and then they will go into the next bit. Yeah? And the other next level of reading this verse is the Kurukshetra is a holy place of pilgrimage. So something spiritual is going to happen, or something that's not going to be siding with evil is going to happen. So that place normally influences the good, being a holy place. So Dhritarashtra is a little bit concerned about what might happen in this battlefield because they're fighting at Kurukshetra, which is a place of pilgrimage. But the next thing, the thing that we want to start looking at is this phrase, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled. Yeah? Because that's very important in what Bhagavad Gita is going to change your view on. Right? So Dhritarashtra is doing something which is erroneous. He's looking at the Pandavas, which are the sons of his brother, and his own sons differently. By the end of the Gita, he should be seeing them as one, as part of God. You should not be making that distinction between family ties. Yeah? And that's one of the big attractive precepts about Prabhupada's work and teachings, that he does not care about race or religion or creed or gender. Those things are not important because they're outer coverings. Yeah? So he's in what we call illusion, in what we call what was in the Bhagavad Gita, what we come to know as the mode of ignorance. Right? So he's like, these are mine and those are not mine. So I'm going to have this distinction, mine and not mine. And I entrench myself that that distinction is valid. And what Krishna will do to Arjuna is he will untangle that fake vision of the world, you know, which is very much needed in this world. Look at it. So we're going to look at that. So that's the first thing I want you to sort of grasp. These verses have like 3 layers. I just read the verse, and then there's something in there going on which is a little bit more interesting, and then there's a little bit more of a profound piece of wisdom that's hidden, locked within the verse. Even a simple verse as the introductory verse can have that 3 elements of profundity at the end. Yeah. So now then we got to look at qualification. How is it that Arjuna was taught the Bhagavad Gita? Yeah? Why did he understand it? So that is given in the 2nd chapter, which is the contents of the Bhagavad Gita summarized. So the entire Bhagavad Gita is summarized in this 2nd chapter. It's called a summary of the Bhagavad Gita. And the starting point is verse 2.7, and we're just about to go into that. Now, before we do that, what's happened here is Arjuna is normally a very composed human being, and he's ended up on a battlefield with millions and millions of soldiers who want to, people just foaming at the mouth and waiting to cut each other's heads off. Right? It's really kind of a really intense environment. Yeah? And there's a lot of noise. You know, I think one of the classes I said last week that we will do, we'll get some big speakers in here, and we're going to recreate that kind of noise. And we're going to put a little chariot and a little thing with Arjuna and Krishna in the middle, and you can just see what that felt like. It was like it would rock you. You know, imagine you're an 18-year-old AFL or a soccer player. You've ended up in like playing for Manchester United or some Premier League side, and you're going in front of 80,000 people. You're walking out for the first time. That is what he's dealing with, right? So he's looking at us, all this, and people getting very rolled up. The crowd are getting rolled up. The soldiers are getting rolled up, and he's looking, and there's Bhishma and Drona. Bhishma is his great-great-grandfather, and he's like, Bhishma's like looking at him with intensity, and Drona, who's his teacher, he used to play with these guys as kids, and he's like, oh, this is too much, I can't just like kill these guys. And that soft, compassionate nature kicks in, right? And he pretty much doesn't want to fight. So we have this like wonderful verse 2.7, which is the moment where he kind of goes, you know. So we'll go to verse 2.7. And we'll do this like many times, so like this will be second nature to you. So you've got
Which page is it?
67.
67.
Kapanya dosha Chim tvam dhammasu samudacheta Jakshaya shan nishchitam bhutam me Sisyas teham sadi mam tam prapannam. So Arjuna is saying, now I am confused about my duty. I've lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Mam tvam. So what the attitude of learning the Bhagavad Gita has to be is that you're surrounded with all the noise in your life, all the tumultuousness of these armies, and you've got nowhere to turn. You have to surrender. And you're looking for instruction. And that's the attitude to approach the Bhagavad Gita. It has to be just letting go of well, a little bit, and having that humility, and then the instruction of Bhagavad Gita will come. So, as chapter 2 is a summary of the Bhagavad Gita, we can go into what that summary entails. What's about to happen is Krishna is about to get annoyed with Arjuna. So he's going to say, like, what is going on with you? Like, you're supposed to be this greatest warrior, and you're like shaking on the battlefield. So, so the starting point is like a series of arguments that are put forward to Arjuna for acting. Right? I'm just going to tell you what those arguments are. And this is a dialogue between two people. So what's happening is that it's like a sales pitch, chapter 2. So it's like, what about the cup for it's $5? And Arjuna goes, no, I don't want to pay $5 for it. I want to pay $4.50. Yeah, and it's like Krishna goes, what if $4? And he goes, nah. $3.50. Nah. $3. No. Right? Until we get to a point in the chapter called verse 2.54, and Arjuna goes, that's interesting. Tell me about this. Okay. So the first thing is, the first price, the $5 starting point, is what are you doing? Just fight. That's what Krishna's going to say after this verse. Just get on with it. I mean, come on. And he kind of hints at his famous name as a fighter. Says, come on. You're known to be a fighter. Arjuna's like, It's like a kid doesn't want to eat the food. It's like, no, I'm not going to eat this. No. Krishna goes, okay, I'm going to give you a better reason. Like, if you fight, you get to go to the heavenly planets. Arjuna goes, no, I'm not going to accept that either. Well, this is very important. We'll see why in a minute, right? And then he goes, okay, before that, you're the soul, not the body. That's not going to work. You're going to go to the heavenly planet. That's not going to work. And then it kind of carries on, and it gets to this other point saying, look, why don't you fight? Just give up what you get afterwards. Don't think about that, and fight, which is like a $3 version of the deal on the cup, right? And Arjuna is like, fight and give up to just fight. No matter what happens, just fight. Not think about the heavenly planets. Not about the deal before that, which is I'm just a soul. No, I still don't buy that. And then Krishna gives us the answer, which is part of the Bhagavad Gita, which is, and he hints at it at this point in the negotiation, trying to get Arjuna to fight. He says, well, you can stand above all the fighting, and whether you win or lose, you stand in something called transcendence. Right? Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, the word transcendence has like a literal translation. It's like coding. It has a specific codal answer to it, right? Now Arjuna goes, it's like, imagine like, you're trying to get the kid to eat, and then you go, okay, what if I put an ice cream in there as well? Will you eat the dinner? He goes, okay, what's the ice cream all about? And Krishna, what does it mean to be transcendent to the modes of material nature? What is that? So 2.54, you've got this question, right? So let's just go ahead to this. Let's jump over the negotiation, which you can read in your spare time, and let's get to 2.54. You'll see this question, right?
What page is it?
Page 115. I'll read it out once you. So Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak, and what is his language? How does he sit, and how does he walk? Okay? That's the question. So after all this haggling over not eating the food, and the treat of the ice cream comes in, be transcendent, be above the modes of nature? And this question goes. Now, if we cheat, like in an exam, you might already come up with the answer, but if you're literally just answering this question, you can just I can give you the answer, right? The answer is quite easy, but once it's like cheating in an exam. You won't really understand it, how that answer just comes out. I'm going to give you the answer. Right? The question again. What are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged into transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? How does he walk? And the answer is Srila Prabhupada. That's the answer to that question. If you want to look at an example. Right? But we can't get there. What are the symptoms of one whose consciousness merges transcendence, unless we unlock this meaning of the word transcendence, right? And people will go to a dictionary and Google that word, and you're not going to find the answer because it's like a coded thing, which only the Bhagavad Gita has a specific definition for it, right? What you're doing is it's like going with a Google Translate. I don't know if you're familiar with that, and you put in English and you put in Russian. But you're actually looking for Japanese, and you're going to keep getting Russian out of it, right? And you're not going to get the answer, okay? Only the Bhagavad Gita will tell you what that word transcendent means in this context, right? And what it means is to be above the modes of nature, right? Mm-hmm. The modes of nature, okay? And that sounds like, that's a sentence I understand, it's a sentence of modes of nature, but then what does that mean, you know? And then we've got all this stuff in the Bhagavad Gita talking about this. So that by the end of the Bhagavad Gita, kind of like, I'm starting to understand what is it to be transcendental and how to apply that into your life. You know? So that's a process of going through the Bhagavad Gita and understanding how that means Srila Prabhupada by the end of it. And that takes normally 6 to 8 months to get that process. You know? And what we do here is we'll just repeat these things until they'll become intuitive. You know? And then you go, and then when you read it, you'll start loving it because you're like, ooh. I can see the battlefield of what it is. Every person has a Kurukshetra, as a battlefield, which is different to every other person. I'll be explaining the Bhagavad Gita. Right? And reading the Bhagavad Gita daily is like having Krishna on your chariot. Right? It will just make it easier, a lot easier. Like, I don't know if you've seen the film The Matrix. Haven't seen that film movie? All right. It's like the end of The Matrix when Keanu Reeves can just see all the coding in The Matrix, and that's what will happen when you get to the end of this journey. So let's look at, we want to be specific about what this word transcendence means. Yeah? If I take all your emails, I'll give you a summary of this. I'll send it to you. And it'll be like very easy, about 5-minute bullet points. And if you just flick on it every week, it honestly will penetrate. You know, your soul is dying to hear this stuff. So it's just going to go into you. Right? So the word transcendence refers to above the modes of nature. Right? So the 5 topics in the 3 parts of the Bhagavad Gita, there are 5 topics. And the 5 topics are Krishna, the individual atomic soul, which is us, Prakriti, which is material nature, Kala, which is time, and there's karma. Those are the 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita. And what transcendence, the transcendence part of it is to understand what is tying these things together, the modes of nature. So there's 3 modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Right? Now the material world is designed by Krishna as a prison which has 2 purposes. One is to refine your intentions towards God, and one is to reform your conduct and make you more pious. Yeah? And that may not happen in one life, it may take many lifetimes. Right? Every reaction of the soul in this body through the senses with the material energy, right, for most people happens in one of these 3 modes of nature, right? And sometimes in a given moment they can flip between these 3 modes. Yeah? And any reaction in the modes, right, anything that's in the modes is going to create karmic reactions. Yeah? And the Bhagavad Gita definition of karma is those actions that result in another embodied body in the material world. Yeah. That's the purpose of karma. Karma itself has been designed by Krishna. Yeah. So anything in the modes of nature will lead us to bondage. Yeah? So Arjuna is asking 2.54, how do I get transcendent above the modes of nature? Yeah? Now, the best way to visualize this is using a really silly example, right? I assume you all know what a VR headset is? Virtual reality headset? Things you stick on your head, right? You know? Yeah. And apologies, probably heard me say this every week for the last few weeks. So as you put a virtual reality headset, and it's a really simple computer game, right? So you start off with 1,000 points, right? If you're in the mode of goodness, you get 10 points taken off. If you're in the mode of passion, you get 50 points taken off. If you're in the mode of ignorance, you get 100 points taken off, right? And you've got to end the day with as many points left as possible, right? That's someone that's striving for transcendence, right? So a mode of goodness, all these modes involve one common factor, right? And we're programmed to work within the modes from many births. So the one common factor in the modes of nature is you want to act for your own sense pleasure. That is what's going to cause you to stay in the modes of nature. And therefore it's going to create karmic reactions and it's going to create rebirth in the material world. Right? So the material world has been beautifully designed by Krishna out of love for all the embodied beings to get them out of those modes eventually. Okay? So the mode of goodness, for example, is like I gave some charity work today. I helped an old lady cross the road. I helped someone fill their visa application as a friend of mine. That's sort of like a selfless act, and I feel good about it. You do it because you feel good about it. I like being kind. It's a good thing, And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it's a good thing, because that's going to get you eventually to a possible stage where you can start to escape the modes of nature. So goodness is a good thing, but also from the Bhagavad Gita's point of view, right? It creates karma. It creates good karma, right? Good things will happen to you. And in the verse 2.545 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is warning Arjuna before he triggers this question off in his head that you want to stay above the modes. You don't even want to be in the mode of goodness, right? Because actually, all the modes are about enjoying your senses for yourself, and what is above the modes, what's transcendental to the modes, is every action which is done only for Krishna's sense pleasure. See? That's the distinction. So by turning all our actions into actions for Krishna's sense pleasure, and that's the ultimate aim of that action, that's when you get transcendence. So Krishna then answers in verse 2.55 and onwards after that question, what are the symptoms of the person who's only thinking about God's sense pleasure, not about himself? And that's what we're trying to aim for. And that's why the answer of 2.54 is Srila Prabhupada is a good example of the answer for 2.54. So mode of passion is when we're like, gotta go to work, gotta make this money, gotta pay my mortgage, next month I'm gonna get a new watch. It's like driving into the material energy for your own senses, right? That's why you lose more points on my virtual reality machine for this, right? And then that creates more karmic reactions. It's me, it's mine, my work. The work belongs to me. The products of the work belong to me, right? And that starts turning into the mode of ignorance, right? Which is a demoniac type thinking. Where the mode of ignorance, where it's like, I am the controller. I'm in charge. No one should enjoy it. No one should come in my way of me enjoying for myself. So it's almost the opposite position to like the mode of goodness, but even out of the modes, right? It's the opposite position. Right? So every day when we put this VR headset on and we go outside, we will be doing this because we've been conditioned to do this for many lifetimes, right? And there's no harm in just being open about it, because that's how you'll start to overcome it. So you get on a bus and it's like, that person's got a nice watch. Wish I had a bit of watch like that. Pinks, it's triggers a mode of passion, envy, mode of ignorance. You drop your points on your VR machine. Oh, that guy's over there is attractive. Maybe I should talk to them. Attraction to energy. Sexual lust attraction. Drop, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. So this is how most people who are not conversant with Bhakti are living their days. And they're creating a lot of adverse reactions. Because often they're getting pulled into doing something by the external energy, right? And what Krishna is doing, he's created this whole framework of material energy to constantly just give them a kick, right? So eventually they'll like, after many, many births, they'll like be wanting not to do that. They want to not be it's like a train a puppy, you know? And eventually as the puppy gets bigger, it just won't shit all over the place, you know? So it's like, that's what Krishna is effectively doing. Yeah? He's a vulgar example, right?
He goes outside.
Absolutely. So we are like these like naughty puppies, right? And that's why we've ended up here. So when you kind of really digest the fact that you shouldn't be in your body's state, and you've done it because you've been indulging these modes of nature for many, many lives, right? And you'll become curious, like Arjuna is at 2.54. What does it mean to be above the modes? What do I need to achieve? Then you can start the process of getting your bhakti going. Right? That's when you're going to start pushing it. Right? Because you need to know, you need to have a goal, right? It's like, it's lovely coming up to the temple and doing Kirtan. That's great, that is going to purify you, that's going to get you above the modes. But you also want to have a goal, right? And the Bhagavad Gita is giving you, like, Krishna is literally giving you what are the key performance indicators for being in pure bhakti yoga, right? They're in there. And it's going to gradually take you to that purpose, that vision, right? When every action you do every day, you know, there won't be pretty much anything you do that isn't for Krishna, you know, and it really is like a state of ultimate joy. And when you get to that point, what you'll discover is that what you thought was happiness wasn't anything like what happiness is. Because the real happiness of the soul, which is what you really are, comes from doing everything for Krishna. That's given in verse 9.27, which we'll look at in a few weeks. So, key performance indicators, if you're curious, like over the next few days, on the weekend, you want to have 15 minutes on your own with some decaf tea and a biscuit. You want to have, what are these key performance indicators of bhakti? You know, they're given in chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita. You know? Sorry, chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita. They're all there. You know? These are the things you've got to aim for as a devotee. So that's where you want to go. But if you read the Bhagavad Gita systematically, which is the form of bhakti itself, you will get there. Because that's the whole purpose of it. It was to get Arjuna out of this illusion of thinking, hey, that's not your grandfather. That's not your teacher. Right? What the Bhagavad Gita teaches you is your many, many lives that you've had. It's like a train on a train journey. And you've kind of get on people come on one platform and leave on another platform. You could have been my sister in my last life. You could have been my mum. In my next life, you might be my niece. I don't know. We don't know where people's karmic journeys are taking them. So Arjuna, by the end of the Bhagavad Gita, will not see Bhishma and Drona. He's not going to see that. He's going to see them as souls that are on a karmic journey that ended up on this battlefield. None of these bodies. And he's not even going to kill them. He's going to, by Krishna's decree, he's going to give them the correct punishment they deserve to perform themselves. And he's going to have that so embedded in his mind, he's going to understand he's actually not only, by doing this fight for Krishna's benefit, he's also benefiting these souls. And this is a form of benevolence, not a form of violence, which is an extraordinary level of thinking to get to by the time you get to the end of the Bhagavad Gita. At the start of it, people go, this is a book about violence, how can it be about religion or God, whatever. Actually, it's the real science of what we are and what God is. That's what comes out of the book. You know? So that's the journey we want to go on with Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to look at just a couple of verses that we touched on last week and link them to some verses on the modes of nature, just as a starting point. This stuff isn't easy initially, but it's like with anything, you know, like after I say play the violin, but I don't play the violin, play the piano or doing the scales. The more you practice the scales, the better you get on the piano. You know? And then you have breakthrough moments, you go, I can now do the scale like this, I can do it this tempo and this pace, and I'll go back and try to do the next level of speed. Yeah? And that's the way you want to approach it. And you want to enjoy that journey as a part of your own self-development. Because this is the most important self-development you'll ever do, because it's the self-development of getting you out of the bodily concept of life, you know? Which is the real purpose of the human birth. Any questions at this point? Is that all? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. So let's look at 2.44, which we covered last week. I don't know if this is bigger, but I'm not sure I'm still going to be able to read it. If it's not, don't worry, don't strain your eyes. Can you read that verse?
Yeah.
Okay, so the translation is the bit, so if you read that out, if you want.
Want me to read it?
Yeah?
Oh.
Yeah.
The translation.
Yeah, translation.
In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place.
So this is the, has everyone got that?
Which page is
Sorry, that will be on, it's 2.44, which is on page 107, top of 107.
107?
Yes, if you have a read of that first.
Oh, this one.
It's empty.
Oh, sorry, I'll get some more. If you just read that, I'll grab some water. So who wants water?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Ready, water?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You should not need water.
No,
You're very right. Okay. So I'll just cut through the verse to give you a kind of what you've got to be wary of. So this is like a practical example, right? So the material energy is designed to kick you away from it, back to Krishna. Right? That's what it's designed to do. Right? So if you go towards material energy, it will also capture you to then give you a kick. At some point, you're creating karmic reactions. They may not be instant; they'll come later sometimes. Yeah? And we'll go to different types of karma reactions and seeds later on. So the smart people will be aware that if they indulge in these modes of nature, the kick is going to come at some point. Yeah? So, and what Krishna is saying is the allurement of his reformatory energy of reformation in the prison, reforms the prisoners, is such that the more they go towards it, the more they're going to get kicked. Right? Bang. May not be obvious, but it's going to happen. Right? And what happens to those people is, once they're absorbed in that process of being kicked, they're not going to be interested too much in Krishna until they get their big kick. Right? But the energy is very, very powerful. It will draw you in. Yeah? Because the fact that your mind will go there means you haven't got the kind of merit to get to Krishna. Because that's where you're leaning towards, right? It's like imagine you go on a date and you're sitting with this girl, and it's probably the girl that you should marry, right? And you see some other girl that you actually find a bit more attractive, but her personality isn't right for you. And she walks into the restaurant, right? And you're like, starting to look over that, right? So this girl over here is going to think, wow, he's not serious. Seems right, but he's not serious, right? And that's what Krishna thinks, because he's ultimately controlling the material energy. He's going, you're coming towards me, but your mind is really over that. Or for a lot of people here, they're not even going towards Krishna. They want to go more and more away from him. So he's going to go, because I love you, I'm going to let go of the life raft, and you can swim in the river. And eventually, as it gets deeper and deeper, as those karmic reactions get deeper and deeper, and your strength against the tides and waves don't work, you will eventually have to call out for me. Right? So I'm going to let you go. Right? And that's what Krishna is doing in the material world for most people. Right? So the reason it's here, and the reason you're getting to see Bhagavad Gita, is that you can avoid that proactively, right? And we know that the 9 processes of Bhakti, which is singing, chanting and so on, they're going to get you away from your mind going down that road, yeah? So So that's why we have a lot of japa, we do a lot of chanting. Chanting really kind of conforms the mind back to Krishna. And that's also why initially, when you're trying to chant with a bit of sincerity, it's very difficult. Because your compass is actually tuned away from Krishna. What you're trying to do is pull it back, and pull it back, and pull it back. And if you keep doing that after a while, imagine it's a dog or a child, your arms are going to start hurting. And you're going to feel it, right? So that's what happens when you start really chanting, and you're going to go, oh God, my mind, my mind, my mind. And, but there's always a breakthrough point. Like with any kind of physical exercise or mental exercise, it's like the kid can't do the handwriting, can't do the handwriting. Or a 9-year-old just can't tie the laces. It's only one that can tie the laces. But it's like persistence. Right? That's what Krishna is going to see. Right? To give you a Krishna example, Mother Yasoda was trying to tie Krishna up. Right? Krishna had been smashing all sorts of yogurt pots and stealing butter. And she's obviously a very elevated devotee to even be in a position where she can be chasing the supreme Lord himself, right, of all emanations. So she's chasing him round and round and round. Right? And eventually, she's utterly exhausted. She's dripping with sweat. Her hair is all over the place. Her flowers are falling off her head. Krishna stops. And then he lets himself be tied up because he's seen the devotion. So it's the same with your chanting or any part of your bhakti. It's going to be, I'm trying to do this because I know this is the right thing to do, and you're not tuned in, you're not there, you haven't got the muscle performance there in the brain, and the mind and the spirit, but you have to keep working, and eventually you're just going to crack. You're just like, oh. And eventually what will happen is like, you have to stop yourself from not doing it. You know, that's where you want to be. You know? It's like nothing's going to take you away from Krishna. You know? So this verse is about the warning from Krishna to Arjuna that do not underestimate a material energy. And you can see even a devotee like yourself, when all this noise came in the way, all this emotion of killing the people you love, ultimately you slipped. Like you slipped. Because it's overwhelming. I have designed this. I created the battlefield of all this. That's what it's going to take Arjuna through. So Arjuna can then see it for what it is. So be warned that the practical lesson of 2.44 is that the material energy is very, very powerful, and that's why you've got to sort of be determined and not determined like this, but determined every day you keep coming back. You know? Like imagine a person who wants to get off an island, and there's only one ship a year that comes to get them off the island, but they don't know which day it's on. They keep coming back and going, is the ship there, is the ship there, is the ship there? But they have to keep coming back. And that's what getting out of the material world is about. That's about getting out of this body and going back to Krishna is about. It's about keep coming back to the ticket office. Where's the boat, where's the boat, where's the boat? You know? And it's going to be a long journey. Eventually, you'll kind of just have the joy of persistence. That's the best way to put it. You'll just go, now it's morning, I'm going to go and do the check with the tickets here. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Initially, like, get out of bed. And there's a scientific reason for this, actually, which is worth knowing. So the human, in this human body, over the last 50 billion years, it's been dealing with predators most of the time. It hasn't lived in an agrarian society for the last, whatever, many thousand years. According to scientists, this is a scientific theory. And so it's designed to basically expend as minimum energy as possible to keep the status quo. So the frontal lobe, according to scientists, the habit doesn't go from the frontal lobe to the brainstem, it doesn't become automatic. It takes 70 days for the brain to realize there's a change of environment. So it resists any change. Yeah? And so your body's thinking, if I use up all the energy now, meditating, what if a saber-toothed tiger comes and eats me? I can't spot it. So the brain doesn't want to do that. It wants to keep looking around, be unfocused, because that's what it's evolved to do to survive. So it's a good piece of equipment for getting back to Krishna, but not as really easiest piece of equipment for getting back to Krishna. So you've got to bear that in mind. Often they say some of the great athletes in sport are people who have this, the part of the brain that allows you to create and change habits, it is itself a muscle group, a set of neurons, and that has to be exercised and grown. So great athletes like Michael Jordan, they're able to just develop new training habits very, very quickly because they were very able to adapt to new training regimes, right? So, for example, if you had somebody learn to shoot off his left foot, because they worked out they were losing 12 points a season shooting off the right foot, everyone could tell which way he was going to go, and he had to learn off his left foot to give him that extra microsecond on the pitch. You know, he was able to do that very quickly and just adapt to the new training regime. You know, and over time, as we go into Bhakti and more practice it more, the muscle of practicing Bhakti itself actually strengthens. That's a neurological fact. It just does. Yeah. So you've got to be persistent. So let's look at the next verse. I'm going to try and tie these two verses together. So we're going to go to chapter 3, verse 27.
Which page is it?
So that's page 154.
Prakite Kriyamanani Ahankara Vidudatma.
This is one of the key verses of Bhagavad Gita. Top 10 verses probably I'll be in it. So this is our conditioning here. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, which Krishna later explains he creates false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Yeah. This goes to the heart of the Bhagavad Gita, because actually, as Krishna explained in the Bhagavad Gita, the soul's not really, in some ways, not really acting. It is acting, but it's not acting. And the bodily concept, I'm the body, right? It's getting you captured in these modes of nature. It's also making you think that you're the doer. Right? But there's nothing that happens in this world that isn't sanctioned by the Lord, because the Lord is in everyone's heart as a super soul next to the soul. Right? So when two people are doing it, the karma comes in, whether they're going to do a business deal or get married or whatever it is, something will happen. Ultimately, the ultimate sanction was reserved by the Supreme. Yeah? And the demigods will control, on behalf of the Supreme, all the interactions. And ultimately, Krishna will step in if he has to sanction that. And in the Bhagavatam, you see many examples of that happening. Where demonic people like Hiranyakashipu, they think they can somehow hotwire the rules of death, but then Krishna finds a gap, goes through, and gets them. So that's important. So the modes of nature, and we'll do more on the modes of nature, because I think if you're approaching the Bhagavad Gita for the first time, being able to practically look at your day and do an audit and go, I do this in the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance, and this above the modes in Bhakti. To know where that audit lies so you can develop your Bhakti is very important. Otherwise you're going to stay where you are, you're not going to progress. You know? So you might think, oh, now I need to this year I need to do 2 more rounds at 11 o'clock of chanting, 1 more round of chanting, we'll start my first round before 9 or whatever. So everyone will have a set goal, and we can talk about those goals if people want to have a progressive scale, or where they, and of course, I can only help to a point that I've got to, and then people need other people to help them that have got further than I have. And eventually, a Swami or a spiritual master or a guru would probably be ideal down the line when you're, if you're ready for that, if you're not ready for that yet. We can certainly help you. And what the Bhagavad Gita will teach you is one of the greatest form of mercy is giving others mercy. That's when your bhakti really accelerates. So eventually, if you think my target is to be in a position where I can help other people's bhakti, you're then going to get acceleration, like rocket acceleration, because you're really understanding what the purpose of the soul on this earth is, which is to love God. And Prabhupada didn't sit in the forest and just go Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. He went out because he was that level of devotee. He wanted to give. He saw every living entity as part of God, which is a very important vision that comes in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And when you really go to that point and go to that chapter, you'll see that we're all part of God, And to love Krishna is also to love all living entities equally. Yeah, that's very important. So, I'll just touch on one thing before we. So
7:33.
Yeah, so I'll stop in a minute. So I'll just do one more thing. So, chapter 13, while we're here. So, I made this point a few weeks ago in the Bhagavad class in the temple. So, a lot of people in Bhagavad Gita will stop. I have family members that do this. They stop at the point where they go, I know I'm not the body. I know I'm not the body. I'm the soul. You know, that's the kind of thing. You know, they keep to that. You know, and one of the things that Prabhupada explains in the commentaries in chapter 2 is that is never going to be enough to get you to be Krishna conscious, right? Because a lot of Mayavadis, people who are oneness of the Supreme, they all share that knowledge. In fact, in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, Hiranyakasipu, this great demon, he's saying this to his family that are crying over his brother's death. You know, don't worry, we're not the body, we're not the body, but he's a demon. So that doesn't get you anywhere, right? But there is a big clue in the commentary in the first part of chapter 13, which is worth just taking away from here today. So there's a difference between knowing you're not the body, and a demoniac person can well have that knowledge rather than themselves, and not identifying with the body. These are two different things.
What do you mean by identifying the body?
Yes. So if you know you're not the body, it's one thing. But identifying with the body means to understand that you're the soul, but what is the actual purpose of the soul? What is its real actions? What action should it have? Right? So the real purpose of the soul is to love and be loved with God. Yeah. Anything outside of that is not a legitimate action of the soul, and nor is it happy. It's under an illusory happiness which is temporary. It's a construction of the mind. Right? What you're getting in the material world is a wiring of your brain is making you happy, dopamine, a bodily fame. That's not real, that's part of the physical body. Right? What's real is the happiness the soul feels in serving the Lord, or serving other people on behalf of the Lord. Okay? So to say that you identify with the soul and not the body is to act in such a way that you know what the soul's actions really are. And that's why it's not enough to know you don't know you're the body. That's a big step. That's the step we're trying to get to in Bhakti, or we're trying to get to through Bhagavad Gita, is to understand I now identify with my soul. I wake up in the morning. Right? What I used to say in some of these classes is, in London, in the UK, was you brush your teeth. People go, I'll brush my teeth. A simple act. Now my teeth look really good. When I smile before the deities, my teeth are going to look fantastic. Right? Whereas most people are just brushing their teeth and going to work. But even that act is done for Krishna. Yeah? So that's identifying with the real purpose of the soul. Yeah? And then eventually you do like a self-audit of your day, and you will look at how many things you're doing. What does it mean to be Krishna conscious, right? It's to identify every action of the soul as being the real action, not the action of the body. You know? And minimizing the actions of the body and the results of things. For self-interest. So every action of the body becomes for Krishna's interest. And that's identifying with the soul.
So it's like if you buy a new pair of clothes, you just wear it and you dress up, but you first go to date and see, oh, look at you. I got this.
For the day.
Yeah, I did it for you.
Yeah, exactly right. So now you're identifying with the soul of the body, yourself as a body. Yeah, because you're now doing that for Krishna. Yeah. So the identity of somebody who identifies with the soul, in terms of perspective of the Bhagavad Gita, is somebody who understands that the soul is actually a servant of God, and opposite to the material world where slavery is like this, that servitude is going to grant him happiness. It's not a disempowering thing, it's a hugely empowering thing. Yeah? So you want to be in that state of what is, at the moment your actions might be, my body, me, but you're going to go, I'm not the body, I'm the soul. When you chant, really start chanting early in the morning, do deep chanting, realizing that you're the soul, you're going to start, that is going to become the anchor point of what you do during the day. Not this bodily concept of life. The Prabhupada keeps going on about bodily concept of life, bodily concept of life. No, we're going to get away from that. What is the soul concept of life? From the soul's point of view. Yeah. So there are what we call 5 core rasas, relationships with the Lord. We'll look at those. How to start to develop those. And what I call it dematerialization. So you're dematerializing yourself away from material energy, which is only there to kick you back into your normal identity anyway. That's the purpose of it, which is in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the materialism. So, yeah, so a lot of stuff. I know it's a lot of stuff, and but it's only by repetition it will sink in, because by being here you're showing Krishna that you want to know it. And that's the biggest move you can do. Krishna will do a lot of the rest of it for you. He understands the material world is a difficult place. So, any other questions?
It's all absorbing.
I'm good. Well, okay.
This feels like that when you read this, that the spirit soul will be blinded by the influence of false ego, why it was created.
What was created?
Why this false ego and everything? Why did we create it?
Yeah. Okay. So good. That's a very good question. So I'm going to tell you by analogy. I'm going to tell you the truth about yourself. Right. So let's say at some point, this is a fiction, but at some point, all souls are playing in the spiritual world, right? And one of the rules of the spiritual world is, as I said last week, is to be the servant of the servant of the servant, not to enjoy for yourself. Now, if you don't want to play in that playground with that rule, right, there's a little puddle in the corner of this playground in the water, and you get shoved into that water. So you know how, because you're a naughty kid, and that's the material world, that puddle, Krishna's created it. You go in there for many, many births, right? But in the spiritual world, there's no such thing as time anyway. When you come back out, you might have been in human terms billions of lives. The gopis would turn around and go, where did you go? And he was a bit naughty, went to the puddle for a bit, which is material creation. He came back. Yeah. So why was the material world created? It's because Krishna had a choice. He was like, you're very naughty. You're a part of Krishna. He can't cut his arm off. He might want to, he's not cruel. You want to say, this person is part of him, and cut him off, annihilate him. Krishna didn't do that. He put you here, so you learn how to behave, and you go back in the party. Yeah, the naughty kid goes back in, and they're doing, Ringa Ringa Roses, or whatever it is, and stop the music, whatever game they're playing, and they can carry on and have fun. That's why they're here. And once that sinks in, then that humility will sink in, and the process gets more easier. Yeah. Does that help? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but your naughty kids, you've been to the headmaster's office a few times, and you're saying, I'm seeing some improvement. That's what you're doing. So you're eventually going to get to go back to the playground. That's the idea. Yeah. Any other questions?
I mean, does the circle keep on going? Like you might actually get back there and then you fall down again?
No, not if you want. Once you go back to playing with Krishna, no, you don't come back. Yeah. So people like Prabhupada, they come here. They're sort of really close to Krishna, so he gets sent here on a mission. So he's come here for that. Yeah. So he's like, and when you've got to remember, like he's not just an ordinary. He's not only from the spiritual world. He's not an ordinary person in the spiritual world, right? Because what happens is, like Star Wars, they choose someone special for a mission. Everyone sticks their hands up and they go, Han Solo, you go for the mission, right? So it's like, everyone's like, Krishna's like, who wants to do this for me? And of course in the spiritual world, everyone's climbing over each other, like, me, right? And he picks the Prabhupada to come and do this. This is an absolutely extraordinary soul, right? The more you look at his life from different angles, all the difficulties he's faced, like the terrorism incidents, people trying to kill him and all this stuff, or trying to disrupt him, you see all of that and then you go, wow, okay, that makes sense. Right? But this is not even an ordinary spiritual soul, it's a special, very special soul. Right? And the reason we're able to do 16 rounds and develop our bhakti on what Prabhupada says is Prabhupada is able to take such risks for Krishna that Krishna would love giving his followers that concession. So you're riding the back of that wave, basically. You're surfing, like some big oil tankers gone through the ocean and cleared the kind of waves out the way. You're able to be this little boat behind it. And that's why these kind of regulative principles are so important. Because actually you're getting the benefit of Krishna's love of Srila Prabhupada. Because normally it's like Krishna, in another age, it could be many sacrifices, a lot of piety, sitting in the forest eating nothing to get close to God. But because of this link between Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, you're able to do these things and just get accelerated. You know? And that's why they say the innovation of us talk about like sometimes even Brahma wants to be a Vaishnava, wants to come down and just be with Lord Chaitanya, because he doesn't want material opulence. You know? It's because of his own conduct that he's got it. And that's why they say the dignity of demigods want to be devotees. They can only along for it. They're so materially opulent, it's almost difficult to take it off. Sometimes having a lot of material opulence is one of the biggest challenges to bhakti. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Nora. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Kirtan, Adelaide. Leave a like and subscribe.